Roses remain one of our most popular garden flowers, if not the most popular, coming in all shapes and sizes: shrub roses, bush, floribunda, hybrid tea, climbers, ramblers, you name them, we've got them. They cost quite a bit to buy, especially if they're container grown. You can of course plant them bare root in autumn between November and March, but what you can also do is take cuttings and root your own. One benefit: no suckers, or any suckers that do come are not from a briar, but from the actual variety. I quite like taking rose cuttings in autumn, in about October, about a foot long, and putting them in a slit trench in the garden. But there is nothing to stop you, in the height of summer, provided you don't let them dry out, from taking some shoot tip cuttings. Now, this wood is quite pliable, but it's not too woody as yet. And here, where the flowers have faded, these chunks of stem are prime candidates for taking as cuttings. Just whip them off about a foot long from the plant. I'm cutting just above a leaf joint, so shoots will come straight out from there rather than leaving a snag which can die back. And by having stems like this, which I shall then take away in a minute or two and prepare, each one is potentially a new rose bush for nothing. Right, back to the workshop. Rose cuttings aren't the most comfortable things to prepare, but with any luck, if you find that the thorns on them have gone brown, they're generally fairly easy to remove. It's best to take the thorns off, because that way they're not there to rot once the thing's been inserted. So just snap them off. There you are, you see when they're brown like that. This is a variety called For Your Eyes Only. Very Bond-like. Whip those thorns off. Takes a little while, but one of the pleasures of gardening is you don't have to rush. So they come off almost all the way up. If they're too green, they don't snap terribly well. So there we are. We can now prepare it by taking off the flower at the top. Now cut it off just above a leaf there, and then at the bottom, strip those bottom leaves off. They're still spiky even underneath. And where the leaf joint was there, make your lower cut there, just below it. See? Nice and clean and sharp pair of secateurs. So that's one. And that is how we do it. We do that with absolutely all of them. It's not the sort of job to rush, really, but there's certain things in gardening which are nice for calming you down, as long as you don't stick a thorn in your hand. And just spend your time pottering, looking about, noticing things. Oh, I must get those weeds out of that bed, that sort of thing, you know. There we are. That's all the ones that are going to be submerged, taken off. You don't need to worry about the ones that will be above compost level. So I'm going to take that down to that leaf there. So the whole flower stalk is coming off. And then I'll take that other leaf off there. And again, there's a leaf joint. So just, it's important your secateurs are sharp so they don't crush it. You see, I didn't squash that at all. So that is the perfect rose cutting for this time of year. If we're taking them in autumn to root outside, they can be almost as long again, 10, 12 inches in old money. That's 25 to 30 centimetres. Just do a few more. There's something really satisfying about getting something for nothing, I suppose. Because people don't think about taking rose cuttings. They just think, oh, I'll buy them in the autumn, you know. Well, it's always worth having a go, and you've got that great advantage that any suckers that come up from the rootstock are of the variety, so you're never going to get briar. There we are. Into the can of water, into the hormone rooting powder. It just gives them the wherewithal. That's all they need. They don't need a great clod on the bottom there. And then with your pencil, around the edge of a pot, and bury it at least half its length. There you are. So just the top leaves are sticking out. Do that with all of these. The thing about doing it around the edge of the pot, I used to take geranium cuttings when I worked in the parks department, age 15, always rooting them around the edge of the pot. Drainage is fiercer there, sharper there than in the sort of soggy centre. And what most cuttings need to root is good drainage. They don't want to get dry, but similarly they don't want to be soggy. Do you see how far that's going in? At least half. I really only need 4 cuttings in this pot. I shall get another one for the others. Into the water, into the rooting powder, flick it off, and then down the side. There we are. Water that in. That's quite important. You don't want them to dry out now. No, as I say, you don't want them to be soggy, but don't let them dry out. And they now have the wherewithal to really root well. And there you're going to get 4 new rose plants. They'll start to root towards the end of the summer. You can, if you like, keep them in that pot. Just keep them somewhere sheltered, a cold frame or the lee of the house wall. They're quite hardy. They're not going to need any heat, but they'll take a while to root. I would leave them in there until next spring, making sure they don't dry out, and then knock the pot out, tease them apart, and plant them in the garden, either in a row on your veg patch or your allotment to let them grow bigger before you put them in the garden, or put them straight out into the garden, just making sure they don't get too much competition. So satisfying, isn't it? New plants, new roses from just a few twigs. But then it has all been for your eyes only.